Welcome to the Uncensored Self Podcast. I am your host, Ryann Gillen, and this is a space where women who value achievement, success, accomplishment, and wealth, but also crave happiness, love, joy, and deep fulfillment come to remember that we get to have both. Not by doing more, but by being more of who we truly are. In this show, we explore identity, energy, alignment, and embodiment because you didn't come here to follow someone else's rules. You came to right your own. Let's dive in. All right, guys, welcome back to another Ask Ryann segment, which I rolled out all by myself a couple of weeks ago, and I'm really obsessed with it. So obsessed that I asked my friend, my client, my podcast producer, who has become my creative partner, Sarah, to actually come have this conversation with me. And it's so beautiful because Sarah not only is a client of mine, she's not only a creative partner, she also is really intuitive and done this work for a really long time. So I think she's just going to add so much value to the conversation. So the format of Ask Ryann is like, I'm just answering questions. And my goal, my vision is that you guys start submitting questions, but current state, I'm answering questions that I'm constantly seeing in my world that maybe are winding up in my DMs, even questions some of my clients are asking me. So Sarah, do you want to say hi? You want to give everybody a little bit of context and then we can dive in?
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Ryann, for having me. This is going to be so fun. So as you're watching this, if you have questions, make sure you comment, send it to Ryann, send it to me, because we really, as we co-created this space, want this to be a game changer for you and your business. So I'd love to start. This is a question that I've had before, but I heard it last week during Radical Ambition. Several women say it, that, okay, as business owners and women, we create these big goals. It's like, okay, once I hit this milestone, once I have this much money in my bank account or my business is this big, I'm going to feel so good and so peaceful and so joyful. And I've done this before too, where you get there, you hit the milestone and the goalpost changes and it doesn't actually feel good. It feels like overwhelm. It feels like pressure. It feels like, great, now I know you've been here too, Ryann.
Yes.
Now I have to keep this up instead of it being like, yay, I'm here. What is that? Why does that happen?
Oh, okay. I'm my brain went in 47 different directions. And the first thing, I think there's two things happening here, Sarah. One is I think the biggest misunderstanding we have, this became really clear for me over the past couple of days, is we don't understand the creation process, right? Most women, that pressure that you're feeling to do more, to hold more, that anxiety is really coming from not fully understanding what created the results, right? We live in a world that has told us that it's action and effort and hard work and suffering and sacrifice that created the results. And so we think that is what more is required. So if the belief system is coming from hard work, suffer, sacrifice, and effort is what creates results, and I've created results that way, right? I know I certainly have, you have, and in your experience, we've talked about that over the years, right? But when you're that, and your brain's like, fuck that, I don't want more of that, right? So I think the first one is understanding the creation process. And then the second part, and this is one I think you'll have some context on, is that most people are only chasing more because of what they think it's going to get them. You said it at the very end of the way you asked the question, right? That you were going to get there and it was going to feel a certain way, right? My question is people think there's, my answer is there's a there. There is no arrival in this life, right? There's always just expansion.
That's so true. And I feel like that's something, even when you and I talk about setting revenue goals or setting business goals, and I keep, even with some of the people I work with, it's once they do that, it's okay, then I'm never enough until I get there.
Yes.
And then when I get there, now what? And it's never, it doesn't feel good ever.
Right. Well, because in that scenario that we all do, the world has taught us this way. There's no judgment. The money has the power. The success has the power, right? You're waiting for the money to tell you you're enough. Okay, Sarah, you've crossed the 7-figure mark. You're enough. And what I found when I crossed the 7-figure mark is that enoughness is an inside job.
Oh, that's so true. What do you mean by understanding the creation process? Because I feel like everywhere we go, it's all about the external. It's all about the numbers. It's all KPIs.
Yeah. So, and this is, what I call the energy game, right? Rooted in universal law. People, like I said, most people believe that it is the action, it's the effort, it's the hard work, it's the reps, it's the hours of time that we put in, right? And creation is actually, I always say it's two things, right? It's energy and identity. Right? Action is certainly part of the process. I think a lot of people resist universal law and law of attraction and manifestation conversations because they think it means sit around on your meditation pillow and wait for somebody to knock on your door and hand you a check for $1 million.
Right.
I'm not saying that that couldn't happen if you believe that it could, but none of the women listening to this actually want that, right?
Right.
Like we talk about this all the time in our community, right? Like you would sit on your ass for 3 days and do nothing, and then you would get up and do something because that's just who the fuck you are.
Right.
So it's understanding that energy and identity are what creating, right? Who you believe yourself to be, right? How, and then the energy is how do you show up in the world? Do you show up like somebody who is willing to be a fucking doormat to make money? Then cool, that's what you're gonna get.
Right.
So people think I'm making money because I'm a doormat. Nobody says that, right? But I have to say yes to this person, even though I want to say no because I want to make money. But it's because you believe that that's what's required. So when we change our
Yes.
identity, which is really just our belief systems, right? We change how we show up and we have a different experience of business.
Yes. And that's actually the work you have been helping me with the identity
Yes.
piece, because at first I was like, well, identity, I already know who I am, but the
Right.
work that last week when you and I were talking about my rebrand and
Yes.
copywriting, copy for my website, I came to you and I was like, I don't know what to write. And so you were like, what do you mean? So we did the identity work and I went to that space
Yeah.
of I am running a successful podcasting and media company. And I was like, oh, I know exactly what to write. And so
Yes.
that's been the biggest game changer for me, is thinking about what I'm working on from the future identity, not from now.
Yes.
Yeah,
And I'm gonna tweak that too. It's being the future identity now.
that's true.
Right? Because all we ever
Yes.
have is now. I
Right.
mean, how many times over the years, Sarah, have I had this breakthrough? I'm like, we're all living too far in the future. Just stay here.
Yes.
Like, I've had this breakthrough like 3 times in the last 6 months.
Yes.
Stop future tripping, right? But we do that on accident. You're like, well, right now it's like, no, the only time I have is now. And so if I'm writing my podcast or my copy for my website right now, even though
Mhm.
my business looks the way that it does, and your business is thriving and you're crushing it. And if you have a podcast, you should work with Sarah. If you're just into sharing your gifts
Oh,
with the world,
thank
you should
you.
work with Sarah. I believe that wholeheartedly. But, it's from now is how it looks. But like when you get into, no, this is a thriving company, like this is who I am. I'm leading this company. And when you're there right now, you're thinking like her. So right now
Yes.
you're being her. Right now you're creating copy there. So it's not even, yeah, it's a future in some ways, but it's just right now. Where am I
Right.
thinking right now? Who am I being right now?
Right. Oh, see, and this is what I mean, like, you scratch parts of my brain that, like, it's so helpful. I keep telling everybody that. But this
Uh,
leads into, I actually just got
yeah.
off a call with a client of mine, and she's wanting to double her she's a counselor, she
Yes.
wants to double her practice.
Yep.
And intuitively, asked her, I was like, "Do you feel like you have capacity for that?"
Right.
And she's like, I really wanna be there, Sarah, but I'm exhausted,
Yes.
and I can't even imagine, like, she even said, like, "Is this even, like, worth it at this point?"
Yes.
And so that's kind of related to the first question, but, like, how do you see that? Like, what's going on there when we
Mhm.
say we want this thing, but then we're already exhausted?
Yeah. Yeah. So the first part is the same, right? Meaning, I'm always going to start that, right? It's the misunderstanding of the creation process
Right.
is what's happening here. But then it is correct that we hit an emotional capacity, right? And we're actually, at the time that this podcast is going to come out, we're in the middle of a series on the uncensored self around like business principles I no longer believe in, or business beliefs I no longer have. And I talk about the strategy trap. It's literally episode number 1, right? And I talk about emotional capacity is actually what grows your business. So when you do have that level of exhaustion, basically what's happening is you are at max emotional capacity, right? And the way that I explain this is that you are putting out more energy that is being reciprocated by your work.
Oh.
So what I mean by that is, and I'll use an example from my own life, right? Like when I was running an agency and I had tons of calls on my calendar all the time, with my team, with my clients, with prospects, right? Like I was networking, I was podcast interviewing, right? I was doing all of these things. Those things were not all reciprocating energy, right? I was pouring energy in, but I wasn't getting the same energy back, right? And so that's what leads to capacity issues, which short if I could put that in one sentence for you, you're doing too much shit you hate. So when somebody comes to me and says, I want to double my business, or like your client who's looking to grow, and it's like, fuck, I don't want to do more of any of this, right? Like, no wonder, you are at max emotional capacity. The energy that's going out is not being reciprocated. And there could be a lot of ways. It doesn't always have to be directly reciprocated from work. And I know you know this,
Right.
Sarah, right? Like, you're really good at filling your own cup. Like, that is something you were excellent
Oh,
at
thank
doing,
you.
at feeling into yourself and being like, I'm at max capacity, and a work that I do right now is not going to be my best work. So I'm better suited to go take the afternoon, put my sun in the face, or my face in the sun. That's what I meant. My face in the sun, take the dogs for a walk, right? Like talk to my plants, and then I'll come back and do the work. And
Right.
so to me, it's that emotional capacity that's missing for so many people. And that's
Yes.
where that exhaustion of like, I want more because I want a bigger life. But it's like there's no more emotional capacity because the output is so much bigger than the input, than the reciprocity, than what in your life gives you energy and fills you up.
I love that. Yeah, it's something I've seen over the years is if I'm in the right energy, I could take, 10
Yes.
energy points and get 100 things done versus if I'm completely out of alignment, I could
Yeah.
put in 200 energy points and it does nothing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is
Yeah.
the magic of the energy game. And that's the part that just really trips people out, especially people like your client who are stuck here or other clients of mine that are stuck here. You're unfortunately at this point. So even if what Sarah and I are saying, like, that sounds magical, Ryan, but there's shit that needs to be done in the business, right? And Sarah's also not a rookie to business. You've been an entrepreneur for what, 12,
Since
15 years now?
2013, yeah, I think.
Yeah, so 13 years, right?
Yes.
Like I'm going on, which is bananas to think about. I'm going on 8 years.
Nice.
We've all had those moments in our business where, yeah, we were just pouring into and pouring into and pouring into the business and there's no reciprocity. And like I said, we think that, oh, that must be nice. You're in a different place. You don't understand my circumstances. It's like it's not business and it's not Sarah and I, it's universal law.
Yes, yes.
Universal law
Yeah.
works 100% of the time. If you are consistently pouring out more than you are getting back, you will run out of energy and you will
Mhm.
just attract more bullshit, period.
Yes. Well, it's like you said last week, it's our frequency is like a radio station. It's a signal we're
Yeah,
putting out. And I had a
yeah,
client last week that booked a call to talk business strategy and something came out from their personal life. And
yeah.
then while we were on the call and they were working on that piece of their frequency that was feeling so overwhelmed, her biggest client booked and scheduled and they'd been resistant for weeks. And she messaged me and she's like, this stuff actually works. I'm like, yes, it doesn't always make sense from our logical brain, but if you just
No.
start playing with it, it
Yes.
happens.
It does. I coached a client through this morning, a private client. She's a realtor and has like doubled her business from last year, or not doubled. She did what she did all of 2025 in the first 4 months of 2026. And again, into some capacity stuff, right? And so we've
Hmm.
been coaching through that. And then she's like, okay, Ryan, since we started working on this, like, I don't have any closings scheduled. And I was like, okay, cool. But then talk me through what's going on. And we went over and looked at what are her opportunities, what's going
Yes.
on. We talked through every opportunity in her pipeline. And literally within 3 minutes of getting off the phone, she texted me back and she was like, the deal that we talked about, the first one, we're going under contract. They just accepted all of our terms.
That is so awesome.
This
See,
is a
it's
deal that she's been working on for well over a month,
wow.
right?
Yeah.
And in the like, your emotional capacity is focused on how do I go get, how do I go get a deal to close instead of look at all of these opportunities and then your capacity grows, right? And then the capacity for more grows. And again, it does sometimes feel like magic. And sometimes people want to dismiss that. But yeah, when you are at a max emotional capacity, your brain, your body will always pull you back, will always make you feel overwhelmed until you start doing more shit you enjoy. And what's really cool, and you've actually mirrored this back to me, I say this all the time, when you are putting out energy and it's coming back, you can get so much more done. Like one of our favorite thoughts to think, I talk about this in my community, right? You get more done in 3 hours that some people do in 30 days because your energy is so fucking clear when you do it.
Yes, that's so true. It's so true. Okay, I have one last question for today. So, if somebody's listening, and like you said, great, Ryan, that sounds awesome, but I'm exhausted and I still have bills to pay. What would you
Yes.
say is the next next step that they could take?
I think the next step is opening yourself up to a new perspective. Like, I think the first step is always starting there, right? Because if your first thought is to dismiss this conversation as overly simplified, great for people like you, blah, 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 I want you to catch yourself. I want you to just catch yourself in that moment and ask yourself, but what if it could be different? What if there is truth to what they're saying? What if there is a different way to do this? Like, just start softening the current limitations that you are holding on to for dear life,
Yes. Oh, that's so
right?
true.
Like, that's the first step because If you are still in that much resistance that you want to tell us both to go fly a kite, yet you're still here listening, trying to flip into possibility is going to be hard, right? Go back to the radio dial example. If you are at 95.7, it is hard to get to 102.1. That's a big frequency jump, right? So sometimes we just have to go from 95.7 to 96.5 to 97.3 to 98.1. So start loosening up the idea. Just what if? What if there is another way? What if I could see this differently? What if there's some truth to this conversation? What if there is something to this energy and identity thing? Like, what do I really believe about business? Like, just start being curious, because your brain loves a good fucking question. And so if you ask it better questions instead of how the fuck am I going to do that when I'm at max capacity? Because it's going to feed you back. You're not. Sit down. Eat some
Right.
donuts, shut up, right? That
Right.
is how it will answer that question. But if you ask it, what if there were an easier way? What
Oh, I
if
love that.
there were some truth to this energy bullshit? Your brain's going to give you that answer too. And it's going to feel better. So to me, loosen the resistance is always going to be the first thing, like just being open to new ideas and new perspectives. And then once you get to that place, come back and listen to this podcast again and see if you hear the conversation we had a little bit differently.
I love that. Yay.
So fun.
Oh, this is so fun. So if you're listening to this and you have more questions, we really
Yes.
want to make this a space where we're answering the actual things you're thinking. So comment, send us a message,
Yes.
and we'll be back with many more Q&A sessions.
I know. I'm having so much fun with this. Sarah, thank you for being here. Like
Thank
Sarah
you.
said, up on social media, hit me up on social media. Wherever you found this, we do want to continue to make this more of a dialogue
Yes.
from you guys, and we're having so much fun. So Sarah, thank you. Thank you. You guys, we'll
Thank
see
you.
y'all soon. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Uncensored Self podcast. If this conversation cracked something open for you, trust that. That's the work. And share this episode with a woman in your life who's ready to stop performing and start creating. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, leave a review. It helps this message reach the women who need it most. Remember, you're the creator. The rules are yours. And your uncensored self, she already knows what to do. Keep leading, keep listening, keep becoming.